Okay, so let's try this for the seventh time, see if the computer actually works. Uh, I'm going to talk a little bit about my course. It's called Intro to German Children's Literature. Uh, the course runs chronologically from the mid-19th century up through the present day, and the unit that I have been developing this entire semester for the course, I've entitled Hijacking the Past. As I said, it falls roughly in the middle of the course, and it involves analyzing children's literature in the pre-Nazi era and in the immediate aftermath of the 1933 elections in Germany that brought the Nazis to power. My main goal for this course, or for this module in particular, is that children, I say children, I mean students, will be able to trace the lineage, as it were, of um, thematic content from one era of German children's literature to through another. This is the sort of thing that evolves and builds on itself. And so my thesis for this module is really that while the Nazis were trying to remake government, almost a new genre of government as it were, they really reflected back on their older counterparts, older authors, older regimes, um, for inspiration for their content, for their morals, and for how they viewed the world. That's not to say at all that previous eras in Germany were building up to the Nazis. Uh, what I mean is that these eras had values that the Nazis decided to take and twist, and these values were reflected in the literature. And so that's why I call it hijacking the past, because the Nazis took previously benign elements and morals and cultural values and then twisted it for their own purposes. So the books that we'll be reading, there'll be one from the era of the pre-Nazis called the Weimar Republic, was the era in Germany at that time. And then we'll be reading one Nazi book. The pre-Nazi book is Erich Kästner's 1929 novel, Emil and the Detectives. And I have a great presentation on this, but I can't seem to figure out how to upload it to PowerPoint, or I'm sorry, upload a PowerPoint to YouTube. Um, the Nazi book is by a Nazi author called Wilfried Bade, published in 1934. The book is called Drummer Boy Under the Swastika. And really, these books are fairly similar. They both feature young male protagonists between the ages of 8 and 12, working together with other kids their age um, for the greater good. In Kestner's book, the greater good involves catching a thief and setting things right and solving a problem that was created by the adult world um, that kids should never really have had to solve, but because of their ingenuity and relative freedom, they were able to do it. In the Nazi book, um, the problem is also comes from the adult world. The difference is that instead of having a nice beneficial ending where everybody benefits, um, the kids die. There's martyrdom of children in this book that the Nazis see as portrayals of dedication. So my goal here um, for this unit is that students be able to trace, as I said earlier, this lineage from one era to another, and so to see the inspiration and mark it down that the Nazis took, um, using these two books as examples. Um, the main assignment that I have is I'd like the students to find or remember, some book that they read growing up. They don't need to physically have it anymore. Whether it's a children's book or a youth book, um, something that just as long as it wasn't written for adults, and then to take that book that they have memories of reading and see if there's any values that are portrayed in those books that are similar to those from Eric Kästner's book or from the Nazi book. And I think it's interesting that while our books have no Nazi value whatsoever, we would as a society we would really shun those things. There are elements that they share, and that's not to say that the Nazi books were democratic or that our books now are Nazi. It's just interesting to see how these messages really are the same, or I should say that this content really is the same. These themes are the same, but they get turned in different ways to reflect certain cultural values of the author, of the publisher, of the editor, and ultimately of the reader.